What's going on, guys? Romo the Roamer here. I'm here with John Jonas, the founder of Onlinejobs.ph. And this is a great service that I use. A lot of other private label people use this. Anybody who runs an Amazon business should have virtual assistants. And Onlinejobs.ph is a great place to hire quality virtual assistants. And from my experience using different websites and using Onlinejobs.ph, not only do I get higher quality virtual assistants, but I get like a massive amount of volume. Like you put an application on this website and all of a sudden you have like 60 people in your inbox. It's really amazing. And John, I think his team reached out to me a while back, or maybe I reached out to them, and we were talking a little bit. And I was like, dude, if you're open to it, I want to bring you on my YouTube channel, interview you, kind of dig into how this idea got started. And how you made it a reality, because a lot of people have ideas in business, but they don't actually bring them to fruition. You know, there's got to be the market for it. There has to be, you have to be able to build something, and you were able to build and market this successfully. And that's something really to look up to. So, and we'll also get into Onlinejobs.ph and really talk about, you know, what it is and who it can benefit. But I'm interested in the whole journey, man. So welcome.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This should be good.
Did I leave anything out in your in your portfolio?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's other stuff, but it's fine.
Multi-millionaire.
It's fine. We're good.
Okay, so how did this idea come to you? Were you just using virtual assistants for like another business, and you're like, holy crap, like we need something better?
No, this was an afterthought, but yes, that's exactly what it was. I need something better. So I was hiring. I hired my first virtual assistant in 2005. And it was amazing, like the most liberating experience of my life, where I had tried all kinds of outsourcing stuff aside from what worked for me. Like I had tried Elance, which is now Upwork, and it just didn't work for me. Like I wanted to automate a whole process, and I didn't want to be involved in the process anymore. And Elance required me to hire someone to do something, and then they sent the rest of it to me, where the burden fell on me. And like my personality and the way I wanted to work, and you know, I wanted like time freedom.
Yes.
And that just didn't work there, right? And I tried hiring people in India, and that didn't work. And I tried hiring people locally, and that was a problem. And there's a bunch of reasons. And so anyway, I hired this guy in the Philippines after I got a really good reference to where and why to hire someone, and it changed my life. Like the most liberating thing to have this full-time person his only job was to do anything I asked him to do. Yeah. And he wasn't particularly good at anything, but I could teach him how to do whatever I wanted to do, right? And that was such a big deal.
How did you even find out about virtual assistants? How did you even find out that they, you know, hired overseas?
So I didn't, because that's not what it was. I mean, this is 2004, 2005. Okay. I was talking with the owner of backcountry.com, and he said to me, you know, when you really start outsourcing some of this stuff, make sure you go to the Philippines. And I was like, okay. He was like, yeah, because in India, when you tell them something and they say yes, that means, yes, I heard something come out of your mouth. It does not mean, yes, I understood what you said. And that was my reaction. Like, what? Really? Like, and he gave me a reference to where I could hire someone full time. And I didn't do it because I was like, you know, I just don't know if I can keep someone busy full time. I don't know if I can afford this. It was $750 a month. And I was like, I don't know if they can do good work like I'm doing. And you know,
yeah,
I just put it off, and I put it off for like 2 months. And finally I just decided it doesn't matter. Like none of this matters. I can't keep doing what I'm doing because there's not enough time in the day to get everything done. And I'm overworked and I'm overwhelmed, and it doesn't matter. So I hired someone through this agency that he gave me a reference for. And it was like a terrible experience from the agency. They told me, do you want a webmaster or a programmer? I was like, well, I want someone who can write really well. Well, do you want a webmaster or a programmer? Like, okay, I'll take a webmaster. Fine. Right. And I hired this guy, and it was amazing. Like so liberating, where he would do anything I taught him how to do. And it was something that like, I know how to do this thing in my business. Now I don't have to do it anymore. So, I mean, this is a long answer to your question, but,
that's what I want. I do long interviews, man. I do like hour and a half, so I hope you have time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So people started asking, and like, why is this working so well for you? I was on a mastermind group and we had a call once a week, and I found people asking me every single week, like, why is this so good? What's going on? Why, how are you doing this? How are you finding them? And so I started teaching a little bit.
What exact work was it? Was it programming work? What
No.
kind of work?
So here's the process. I had hired this guy on Elance to write articles for me. And he wrote the articles, and I was so excited because he sent me the articles and they were done. And then I checked them, and a bunch of them were plagiarized, and he fixed them. And then I was like, yeah, I got these articles done. Now, oh crap. Now I have to submit these articles to article sites, and I hate writing the articles and I hate submitting the articles. And he did half the work, and now the burden fell on me, and it was like this major burden on my shoulders because I had paid for this work, and now I had to go do the rest of it, and it sucked. And so then I hired this guy, and I taught him to do the whole process. Like, I taught him to post the articles first since they were written, and then I taught him to write the articles.
Close the loop 100%. Now you don't have to do like a small thing that takes even a couple seconds that really screws your day up.
And even beyond that, like, not only did I close the loop, but I also started teaching him SEO. And so he started not only just posting the articles, but he started linking the articles to each other. And he started linking the articles to my different websites. And he started writing better resource boxes. So the articles started showing up in SEO, and my websites were like, we were killing it, right? And so that was amazing because I was just teaching him stuff and he was doing all the work. And I didn't have to do it, right? So then I started teaching it to other people. Like, here's how I'm hiring people. Here's why. Here's what I figured out about the Philippines. Here's a little bit about it. Like, here's the differences from the Philippines and India. And I had no idea. I was just telling people what I had experienced.
Yeah.
And at the time, finding people sucked because, like, all there was an agency. Like, here's agents of value. They have offices in the Philippines. They recruit the workers. They bring them into their office. They mark up their salaries and they lease them back to you. I didn't know this at the time, but I was paying them $750 a month. They were paying him $250 a month. And we kind of found out at the same time, like, oh, I'm paying them $750. You're making $250. He was like, you're paying $750? I'm only getting paid $250.
Yeah.
And so that was like, okay, this sucks, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to hire someone else, but they did a crappy job of recruiting, and I wanted to recruit someone for myself. And so I was like, I wonder if I could build a website where maybe I could get a couple hundred profiles of some Filipino workers, and like then I could recruit for myself, and I could pay them $350, and they can make $350. And so I hired this programmer in the Philippines to build this for me, right? And we built it pretty quickly, and we put this system up on Onlinejobs.ph, and it was really crappy. And I talked to a couple of the guys in the Philippines that had working for me at the time, and I asked them, hey, like, what can we do to like kind of share this with people? How can we market this? And they were like, oh, I can post it on my Facebook. Oh, I can share it on Friendster, because that was a social network at the time. And so they did, and we had a couple hundred profiles in the first month. And this thing was kind of an afterthought for me. Like, this was like, oh, I would love to recruit someone for myself. We got a couple hundred profiles. I recruited someone for myself. And then I started talking about it to the people that I was teaching how to hire virtual assistants, and it exploded. So like was
the model always the same where you had like a monthly subscription and then nothing, like no percentage after that?
Yeah, always the same. Like nice. We've never taken a cut of people's salaries because I hated it. I hated it. They were marking up my salaries 3 times and taking that cut, and the workers hated it too. So instead, you pay the worker exactly what they want. They get the full amount, so they feel good about it. You feel good about it. You get to recruit the person that you want. It's like it just works so much better, right?
Yeah, I used to pull people off of Upwork because I was like, why am I giving them a 25% cut? It's like inevitable it's going to happen. So I really like the way you went about it. You created this space where, people like me, I use it all the time. Like I keep my subscription active. Like I'm always like, I'm going to cancel next month. And I always have to hire someone new, but it's like, I'm paying $70 versus 25% of what I pay somebody,
and people look at it like, oh, that's $70. That's expensive. Like, dude, that's a cheap recruiting fee.
Yes.
And if you want to cancel, I don't care. Like cancel. We launched this in 2009. And I've seen you cancel. I don't care. You're going to come back and hire someone else. It's just too good. Like,
there's something about it. I don't know what you did to like create this space of like a lot of like high quality workers, and like the volume's crazy. The volume's insane. Like when you put a job application out, maybe it's my niche or something that I'm like applying for the jobs for, but I put an application out there for like a thumbnail for YouTube, and all of a sudden, like I'll make the application. You have to make me a thumbnail. Like that is the application, and then like I'll literally open my Gmail app, and I can click on each thumbnail and like, okay, I like this one, I like this one, like, oh no, not that one, and then I can reply to people, and it's just like that, and
super fast.
So I not only got like a bunch of free thumbnails made like within an hour. I can choose by just going through all of them, and it's amazing. So kudos to you, man. So
I'll tell you what we did to make it different, to make it work so well, which by the way, I don't love the free thumbnail thing, but so one of the things that people in the Philippines are super concerned about is doing a bunch of work and not getting paid. So we try really hard to have people pay for even for free trials, right?
Yeah. I think thumbnails are different. Like I wouldn't have like a whole video, but thumbnails is like, I'm not going to, I don't want to do what I did in the past, like with Upwork is like, someone would like have like a great piece of art, and then I would hire them and I'd be like, oh, this isn't what I want. So then I didn't mean to get 60 thumbnails made. Like I was like, oh my God, like I put an application out there, and the next day I come back and it's just like all these in my inbox. I'm like, I just made a bunch of people work and I'm only going to hire one.
Yeah. And that's totally normal. And I totally get it. So I'll tell you what we did to make it different. And because we had no idea, but the number one thing that we did that was different was it's only the Philippines. And that right there, I didn't know this when I did it. I didn't understand the culture enough to recognize that the Philippines has this super different culture that works really well with the Western world, where people have always tried to go to India because it's like, oh, there's 1.3 billion people there. You got to be able to find someone good, right? Well, the culture is so different that the Philippines has 100 million people, and the culture is similar. And it's just so much easier to find people that want to stick with you long term. They're loyal, they're hardworking, they're honest.
The culture is similar to what?
To the Western world.
Okay.
So like the culture of India is just so different that it's really hard to work with them.
Gotcha. And what are the things that make working with Filipinos so awesome?
So there's a bunch of things that really kind of make this different. Number one, they're honest, and not that they're all honest, but the Filipinos look up to foreigners, which is super different than other cultures where like they'll brag about their foreign boss with their friends on a Friday night, as opposed to like, oh, my stupid boss, and which is what you get in the US.
Yeah.
It's what you get in India, and in the Philippines, they talk about their boss. Like you're a foreigner and they love that. And so they'll be honest with you, and not everybody, but obviously, you'll get used to seeing like, oh man, this person's really trying to be honest with me in things that they're saying. They're loyal to a fault. Like if you treat someone well and you hire them correctly, they'll never quit working for you. So like the whole thing of like, oh man, they're going to jump ship as soon as they get a better offer. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
And that's like that. I mean, the first person I ever hired, 2005, still works for me today. And that's a big deal, to teach someone something and then never have to teach it again.
Yeah.
They have computers and internet access, which means you don't have to go through a service to find them. They're very much not entrepreneurial in the Philippines. So, and this is kind of culturally, they look down upon entrepreneurialism. So you can teach them stuff, all kinds of stuff about your business. You would never teach someone else because if I taught them all this stuff, clearly they're just going to go do it on their own. Well, that's not the case in the Philippines. They don't want to go do it on their own. They don't want to steal your domain. They don't want to steal your idea. They don't want to do that. They want a job.
I'll go a step further, and I know you don't advocate this, but I've given them like access to credit cards to like pay each month that don't have like auto pay set up. And not once. I've done it with like, I don't do it immediately. Like obviously there's some trust to be built, but some VAs, they could have wrecked me at some point. Like they had access, to certain things where it's just like that's my net worth right there. You could have taken it out, but they don't, and that you can't. I almost feel the benefit of hiring someone from America for financial stuff is you can find them afterwards.
Yeah.
Like someone in the Philippines, like you don't know if you can find them, but they're very, very honest people, which I'd say they're way more honest than Americans and harder working.
I've done the same stuff. Like I have a bunch of guys that have access to all kinds of stuff that's like, like super sensitive.
Yeah.
Like access to my personal email account. Because I fully trust them. I trust them.
Right.
And that's a big deal. Like you combine these things together they're not entrepreneurial. They don't want to steal your business. They're loyal. They're going to work for you for a long time. As long as you treat them well, you can trust them. They're honest. Like those qualities are hard to find in people. And yet it's super prevalent in the Philippines. And as a small business, like if you're running a big business, fine. Right. Like I don't want to, this isn't for you, or maybe it is, but as a small business owner, like, dang, those things make such a difference on your mental capacity to handle something like this, right? So that's why the Philippines, like they have computers and internet access, which like it's super prevalent in the Philippines. So you don't have to worry about that. Culturally, they're very pleasing. Like they want to make you happy. And so often they're going to, as long as they trust you, and this is such a big deal, we'll talk about this, but as long as you gain their trust. So there's part of it, it's like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this person, so I don't give them my information. The other side of it is they don't trust you. And in order to get really great work done, they have to trust you.
Yeah, he's going to make me make three thumbnails and not pay me.
What?
3 free thumbnails, he's not going to pay me,
That's right. And that's a big deal. Like, am I going to get paid by this person is how they feel. So once you gain their trust, like, dang, they'll go above and beyond what you ask them to do to make sure they keep their job, because culturally, that's how they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Philippines is a big deal.
Yeah. And I even take it like a whole nother level. Like they're already very hardworking and like punctual people, but I look for like the most punctual people. So like I'll say our interview is at 4:15, and if they don't show up at 4:15, like they're immediately done, And I actually like had lower expectations for being on time, being punctual, like doing the task I tell them to do. I use Trello to organize everything. And one of the tasks was to unsubscribe from emails that weren't good, that I put in like an unsubscribe folder. And I completely forgot about this task. It was like 2 months and it was on his daily task list. So like I put it in the folder to unsubscribe, but I was like, oh, I'll remind him like tomorrow or something that he needs to do that. Like within a couple hours, he was like, oh, I noticed you put all these emails there. It's like he goes through every single day and he checks, tasks that were vacant for a while. Like they didn't have anything he needed to do, but he still checked on them, which when somebody does that, I was like, dude, like you're going to be with me for a while now. And
so that's the thing. Like you gained his trust. Okay. So here's the Philippines. Here's like the number one problem people run into. And this, like, if you'll get this right, which you have clearly gotten it right, if you get this right, this will change for your hiring of people forever. Like this is a major shift. In the Philippines, they don't want to lose face, and they call it they're shy. So they want to make sure that you're happy, and if they feel like you're going to be disappointed in them, that's a really, really big turnoff for them, is you being disappointed in them. And so when you start a working relationship with them, they have no idea if you're going to be disappointed in them and in their work. So you have to do a bunch of things to try and gain their trust in you, so they know that you're not going to yell at them, that you're not going to be disappointed in them, that you're not going to fire them. And as soon as that trust happens, as soon as they make this shift to like, oh my gosh, I really like this boss and I really trust him that he's going to treat me well, all of a sudden the shift happens in them where they're like, hey, I saw that you were doing this thing and I think I can do it better. And so I did this, and here's what I did for you. Right?
Yeah.
Like that shift right there for someone that you're paying $3 or $4 an hour is dang, like that makes life on you so much easier. So in order to gain that trust, you need to, number one, provide training. And that's like the biggest thing, because the Filipinos thrive on getting training from their boss. Even if it's someone that you like that totally knows what they're doing, you're going to provide them training and feedback. Feedback's number two. So like, you're not going to teach someone how to edit videos because you don't want to teach Adobe InDesign or whatever. Right. I don't know what it is. Adobe Premiere. I don't know. But you will provide feedback of like, hey, this is my style, or hey, I like this video and this video and this video, and I like how these people are editing their stuff. So I want you to try and edit like this. And then when they do it, you're like, hey, I like this cut, but I don't like this cut. That kind of thing really helps them gain your trust in that you're not going to fire them. You're not going to yell at them. You're not going to be disappointed in their work. You're providing them feedback, right?
Right.
And then when something does go wrong, the first assumption is, hey, I think I didn't explain this well enough. And so let me try and explain this to you better. Instead of like, oh man, you suck. You didn't, I was so clear on my instructions, like, so those are like the things that once you gain their trust.
And there's probably a tendency for Americans to be more disrespectful to people overseas because of the whole, we hate the customer service. Like when we pick up the phone and there's someone from overseas. So like people like, they belittle people, foreigners, and the pay is $4 an hour, whatever it is, and they're like, oh, like, so it's so easy, and they're behind a computer screen. So it's like, it's so easy just to dismiss someone and be like, nope, like next. And so they probably have that fear for a good reason, because it probably actually, unfortunately, happens a decent amount here.
Yeah. So even like I've had my team write content for virtual assistants, like at them to educate them. And that's one of the things they always include is like, hey, your boss is going to be super direct with you and it's weird, but it's not don't take it personally. Like that's one of the things they always say is, yeah, they're going to be direct, or they're going to be assuming, or they're going to be demanding or whatever, because their culture is different. And that's one of the things they always want to educate other Filipinos on is don't take it personally. This is just their culture.
Yeah. Very go.
Yeah.
100%. So when it comes to the different types of jobs that you can hire, I was interested when I was reading your book, because I've always like advocated use a virtual assistant for checking emails, use a virtual assistant for in my business, like listing books on Amazon, use a virtual assistant to like look for books on Facebook Marketplace. That's what I do. I flip books. So like these little things that I was going to do that were going to take me an hour, 2 hours, I can now free up my time, even paying bills. Like anything that takes my time up, I always advocate, use a virtual assistant for that. But then reading your book and kind of getting more into this, I recently got into a software project about 8 weeks ago. I'm building a software that tells you which books are good to sell on Amazon for my restricted inventory clients, which by the way, if you guys are watching this and you're restricted inventory users, I appreciate you. This is a service that I sell your textbooks, popular textbooks at a 50-50 split net profit.
Grind hard, well done, sir, and welcome to the freaking Well Show.
There we go. So we built a software for that, but I use Indians for it, and they're doing a pretty good job, and they're cheap. But your book, you mailed your book to me. I don't know how long ago it was, but I was reading it and I was like, whoa, you can hire like software people from the Philippines, and I just had no idea. So I'm gonna do that next time. But what other jobs besides software projects and copywriters can you use virtual assistants from the Philippines that you wouldn't really expect? Because those two things, and I'm still like, I'm one of those people that I don't believe it until I see it. So until I see like copywriting that I actually like respect, I'm not gonna believe it. So like I'm like nervous to even like put a post out there for someone to copyright for me, or even like to code. I don't know anything about coding. Like anybody who knows anything about coding is better than me. But just because people don't talk about these things that you can do. So, what other jobs can people look for?
I'll tell you two things. I'm going to tell you what you can do, and then I'm going to tell you a story behind it. So I have, I think 27, 28 people that work for me full time now. And in those, and all in the Philippines, in that are people that do obviously customer support. Super simple. I have people that do admin work, like data management of our customers or stuff like that. Or like one of the things that we've done really well with Onlinejobs.ph is we try really, really hard to filter out Indians or scammers. Like we're very, very active with it.
So interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why people have such a good experience.
You guys are that opposed to Indians.
Well, not that we're opposed to it, but when someone comes to Onlinejobs.ph, you expect to find people in the Philippines.
Gotcha. It's
And
part of
when
the brand.
someone applies to your job and they pretend to be a Filipino, but then later they tell you they're Indian, all of a
Gotcha.
sudden you're upset.
Yes. Yes.
So
Okay, I understand that.
we're very, very aggressive with it. I have programmers, I have designers, and I have different kinds of designers. Like I have graphic designer and video editor designer and user interface designer. I just mentioned a video editor. I have people that do transcriptions. I have people that do social media posting and content. I have someone that does social media advertising. I have someone that does Google and YouTube ads. I have an HR person. I have like front end web development people, like HTML, CSS people. I have content writers. So all kinds of stuff that you can get done, right? So here's the story of when I kind of figured some of this stuff out. So my wife is 7 months pregnant. We go into the doctor's office. He tells her, you have preeclampsia. And if you don't go on strict bed rest for the next 3 to 5 weeks, you're gonna lose this baby. And this is 13 years ago. So on my way home, I was working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. On my way home from the doctor's office, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do because I have to take care of I have 2 other kids. She has to be on strict bed rest. I'm not about to lose a baby over money. And so I get home and I sent an email to 2 guys in the Philippines who were working for me. And I said, here's the situation. I can't work. I need you to do everything I'm currently doing. And just so you know, these guys have been working for me for like 18 months. And I'd spent a good amount of time bringing them up to speed and teaching them stuff. And this is the reason I tell you this is so I want people to learn you can teach people, right? So I turned my business over to them. And for the next 3 weeks, I literally worked 1 hour. And I took my kids to the golf course every day. And my wife had a baby 3 weeks later. She was super healthy, which was so amazing, right? And since I had already not worked after the baby, my wife had a really hard time recovering. And I didn't work for the next 2 months. I worked about an hour a week for the next 2 months. And that hour was just communicating with these 2 guys in the Philippines.
Gotcha.
And so for 3 months, I did nothing. And I came back to my business and I knew it was still reasonable, but kind of expecting a disaster. And what I found was, no, like, dude, they did all kinds of crap in my business that I've previously been doing. And now they're doing it for me. And I learned like these guys are dang good. I just had them doing menial work, but I had taught them a bunch of concepts and they were able to take those concepts from just conceptual and understanding how my business worked to like doing the work, right? So then I was like, this is crazy. I had no idea how good this can be, right? So I started designing a business based around how far can I take this outsourcing thing? Like, what can you get people to do in the Philippines? So I designed this business where we're going to write reviews about products. We're going to post them on our website. We're going to have affiliate links. And then we're going to market this website, right? So I recorded myself talking for an hour and explaining everything about it, like explaining the concept and the ideas and the goals and the website. And I sent this to this guy in the Philippines and I bought a domain and I sent it to him. So he takes a domain and sets it up on my web hosting account and sets up WordPress and starts changing the theme according as I've described in this audio. And he sent it back to me a couple of days later and it was terrible. It was not what I expected. But I at least got some stuff, like I got a bunch of stuff done that I didn't do the work. And so then I worked with him to get this right. And so we worked for a couple of weeks. We got the website right. Then he starts writing the content. And the first time he wrote it, it was terrible. And so again, I went through.
Wait, so this is the same guy that's editing. Did he edit the video and then he wrote the content?
No, he wasn't doing video editing. He listened to the audio that I sent him.
Okay.
And he started creating the website. And I taught him how to use WordPress, right? And today I would hire someone that's good at WordPress,
right?
And then probably teach them other stuff, or hire someone that's good at WordPress and someone that's really good at content writing, right? Because those are two, like, if you're gonna do this kind of a business, then you need a technical person and you need a content writer, right?
Right.
And then I started teaching him. So we get the content writing correct, we get the formatting on the website correct. Then I started teaching him SEO. So He's doing SEO. And then I started teaching him a little bit of social media stuff, this is like way back when Facebook was new. So we started doing some social media stuff, and I started teaching him classified ads. So we start posting classified ads. We start doing all these things that you hear about, that like everybody knows, there's like these 40 different internet marketing things that I should be doing for my business, whether it's an Amazon business or whether it's e-commerce or whether it's digital agency or whatever. There's all kinds of stuff that we should be doing. Over time, over the next year, I did all of those things. I just wasn't the one doing the work on any of them.
Yeah.
And that business within a couple months was making me a couple $100s a month. Within a year was making me like $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Within a couple of years, it was making me $10,000 to $15,000 a month. And the point of all of that is, you asked me, what kind of work can you get done? Well, I got everything done. I just didn't do the work. I was just directing it all.
Right.
I taught it. And that's, again, this goes back to like the Philippines. The more you're willing to teach and train someone, the better off you're going to be. Obviously, you can hire people that are skilled at things. You're still going to provide some teaching and training.
Right. What management tips would you have? One of my favorite that you have in your book that I think Tim Ferriss recommended this, is get a daily report.
Yeah.
So after they work for the day, what did you do? Like 10 things, one thing, that's made a huge difference. Even with my American workers, I make them do a daily report now, because
that's like one of my
I should do a daily report for myself. What did I do for the day?
So one of my biggest things, I require a daily report, and that either comes through email or we use Basecamp for our project management. So in that daily email, and I don't do this anymore, but I recommend people, when you start, you require 3 things. Number 1, what did you do today? And because if they didn't work on something today, they have a really hard time answering question number 1, right? And so that requires production. Number 2, what problems did you run into? And this one stems from the Philippines, of they don't want you to be disappointed in them. And so if they have a problem, they're not going to tell you unless you've asked them to tell you about a problem.
Yeah. And then give them that space to really be open with it.
Right.
Brutally honest, like teach them like, hey, look, I always added that to the end. Hey, like if you guys have any questions or if anything looks weird, I make mistakes. Sometimes I don't have enough coffee and I give caffeine recently. Like I might be doing some weird stuff. So call me out. And now they're very open with it. Like, hey, look, idiot. Like, by the way, this isn't right.
Totally. And then number 3, and this is an important one with the Philippines. How can I help you? So what did you do today? What problems did you run into? And what can I help you with? That daily report, man, for me, it did so much more than just helps them be productive. That helps me get their work out of my brain. And that really made the transition from like me being a grunt worker to me being the CEO, where I can then be more productive at other things, where my brain is not bogged down by these details anymore. I know I'm going to get a daily report. I know they're going to tell me what it is. And I can now, I just found, oh my gosh, I'm so much more clear thinking about how do we make more sales in the business, right? Yes. So that's a really big deal.
And would you say, I know I keep kind of circling back to this, but I'm just so flabbergasted you can hire software guys from the Philippines. For whatever reason, whenever I talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, you can pay an American developer, or you can hire India. Like that was like the other option was like India. But I've never heard of the Philippines. Are they quality? Or are there like, because there's got to be jobs that Philippines are better at and that Indians are better at, like whatever. Like there's got to be like reputations for like different countries. Like maybe Americans are more entrepreneurial and the Philippine people are, very honest. And then maybe Indians, I don't know what they're good at, but maybe something, maybe you think nothing, like, whatever. So I
think they're not good at stuff, because clearly they are.
Yeah.
It just, the culture difference is hard, man. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't know that I mentioned the programmers that we have that work for us from the Philippines. So I'll tell you, the first programmer I ever hired, he doesn't work for me anymore. But I would put him up against any programmer in the world.
Interesting.
In terms of quality. And he was from the Philippines, and he was making $250 a month through this agency. And he's amazing. And He ends up getting a job in Singapore, which is like the Philippines' dream, is to go work overseas, making $2,500 a month. And this is like 10 years ago. I was like, yeah, I mean, go do that, man. I know I can hire someone else who's really great for $500 a month. And that's not the case anymore. And so now, like, a good programmer is like $1,000 a month.
Okay.
In the US, it's like $100,000 a month or $100,000 a year.
I'm paying $375 a week for Indians, and that's super cheap to me. So
yeah, and that's great, right? Great. But you got some really, really good developers in the Philippines. That's something that. So what I always hear is like developers in Eastern Europe are really great, and I know that developers in the Philippines are great. So I'm sure you can find good developers anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So what cultural barriers do you have to overcome?
Right. If I could have the punctuality of my virtual assistant that I hired from Onlinejobs.ph with my Indian software team, we'd be, dude, sometimes on Monday, like I'll have to remind them, like, get to work. Like I sent the payment, like now it's time to get going. And sometimes the project doesn't start halfway through the week. Whereas like that would never happen. Like I had to I had to switch my American assistant from checking emails to having my Philippine assistant do it, because he was just like, his English was worse. I don't have the best, he does not have the best English, but he's still pretty good. Like we can communicate. I can make Loom videos. I can talk fast. He's good with that. But like every once in a while, he'll say something weird in a customer service email. But I was like, you know what? I'd rather him be working all day than have my American assistant like work every other day by like, not that I told her to work every other day. She just chose to do that, or kids had to be dropped off, or there's always some excuse. And that's another problem with hiring part-time workers. But I was just like, all right, we're just going to have you manage the inbox full time. And we're going to sacrifice a little bit of communication. And I think that would help my brand out more than, not responding for 48 hours.
The consistency. And
yeah.
I feel the exact same way.
100%.
Which, by the way, you just so people know, you can hire people with perfect, flawless English.
Yeah.
You just have to recruit for it.
Right.
Like, that's what you have to look for up front. So there are a couple things that I look for when I recruit. And you've mentioned these things. I look for consistency. Like I want to know that you are going to be there every day. And I look for the quality of your English. Like, is it consistent with your profile? And I do this like, so when I interview someone, I interview through email. I send them lots of questions over lots of emails, and I get to see like your attention to detail. Like if I ask you 4 questions in an email, I want to get 4 answers back, because if I only get 3, the chance of you only doing 3 tasks when I assign you 4 tasks is really high, and that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to see attention to detail, consistency. Like, does it take you 2 days to respond to an email, or do you respond, today? Because if it takes you 2 or 3 days to respond during recruiting, then after I hire you, it's going to take 2 or 3 days. Like that doesn't work for me. And then I look for consistency and honesty. Like, is what I'm seeing in the recruiting process the same thing as what I saw on your profile, or is there some red flag in there, right? So those are big things. And then personality. Like, if I get an email from you, even though your skills are amazing, is your personality clashing with mine? Like, am I cringing when I get an email from you, or am I like, oh yeah, I'm super excited to get an email from you, right? Because that'll make a difference. Like, yeah, I'm going to work with this person for 15 years. Like that makes a big difference. So
right. How are you able now? So when you hire somebody, how long does it take you to have that confidence where like you can just make a video about a project, like a whole project, where it's like, you are going to build this website. It's a small website, blah, blah, blah. You give them all the instructions and have them like run with it. Versus, because this is an issue I ran into. I read E-Myth, the book about like, in order to run a business, you have to have like systems in place. So like I was a systems creator. Like I was making all of these Google documents where it was like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 3, step 4, step 5. I was doing it all myself. And I didn't know you could even outsource stuff like that. Like I didn't know you could outsource like making manuals. Now all my virtual assistants, like I'm like, hey, by the way, make a manual for this, just in case you get a better job offer. We can still train people to do this.
By a bus.
Yeah. Anything, you know? What would you say, like, when do you know it's okay to just give a project to somebody? Like, you know what I mean? Like, a whole project versus like a couple tasks?
So in the recruiting process, you can assume that it's not okay to give it to someone. And really, I would say, for me, I know when they have trust in me. It's not me trusting them. Generally, it's them trusting me, because when they trust me, I know that they're going to be willing to try things and do really good work. And sometimes that process takes weeks. Sometimes it takes months before they can just do it on their own. With a website, boy, that's the dream, is like hand over a website and have them just run with it and do it all on their own, right?
Yeah.
Dang, that is so hard. Because in my experience, a website, if it's not managed and it doesn't change, it dies. Like a website isn't a static piece. It's a growing, living thing almost. And if it doesn't grow and live, then it dies. And I've seen that hundreds of times on the internet and in my own stuff. And so it's going to require something from you ongoing. So like the concept of take it and run with it and do the whole thing, I've never had that happen. I've taught people how to build websites, and like the concept that I explained earlier, I've taught people how to do that and that whole thing, but I'm still involved in it. I'm still.
Gotcha.
So other projects, social media, for example. I hate social media. I hate everything about it. Like I don't have Facebook on my phone because I hate it so much. And so we
can talk about that a little bit. That's an interesting topic there. We could talk a little bit about social media, like and why you don't like it.
Yeah. So we can talk about it. My team in the Philippines handles all of it.
Yeah.
And just now even today I made a video kind of committing to creating social media content. And I told them, I'm just going to send you stuff and I'm not going to post it. You're going to post it. I'm not willing to get onto Facebook. So I hate it because Facebook's just a giant time suck and there's so much negativity.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel so crappy when I use it.
Yeah. Have you ever gone through like phases where maybe you're working on a project or something and then you go to the bathroom and you're taking a poop and you spend like 30 minutes on your phone and yeah, that's why I don't like it. Me and my roommate, we're actually talking about it right now, like just how to deal with these devices, because a good app is an addictive app. Like a good app should have a very friendly user experience, and it should make you feel good, whatever that means. It should make you want to come back. So these apps are powerful for people like you and me because we can build businesses, we can advertise. It's huge for marketing, building awareness. But I think you're really smart for having them post, because if I open up Instagram to post right now, I'm going to see, they know exactly what picture I'm going to like the most. They know exactly whose story I want to watch. And it's like, hold on one second, I'm going to look at this. Facebook's even worse. Facebook, I log in my computer, I'm like, I'm just going to email this one. I'm going to message this one person on Messenger, and I open it up and all of a sudden like 10 things come up that like trigger me emotionally. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, and then I'll exit out. I'll be like, what was this? And I'll exit out. And I'll be like, oh wait, I didn't message so-and-so. And I'll open it up again and get back to it. You know?
So I don't have Instagram on my phone either. Because I have teenage kids and I really wanted them to not have it because it's so destructive. Like the linkage to depression and unhappiness and Instagram is so high that, and I can see it. Like I see it in kids that are at my house. I can watch them like like you're with people here and you just,
yeah.
Right. And then I see them physically, like their countenance. I can see I know they're depressed. And so in order for me to encourage my kids to not have it, I removed it from myself.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I did, it was amazing how liberating it was. Like I don't have to take a picture of this thing. I don't care. Like I just did this cool thing and I don't have to share it. And that makes a
So
big.
what does the social media aspect look like? Is it marketing for Onlinejobs.ph, maybe other businesses you have, or because you don't do the personal brand thing at all?
You're
right?
asking me?
Yes.
I have no idea. I have no idea what it looks like. I mean, I know
Really?
that Online Jobs has hundreds of thousands of followers or whatever it is. I've never made a single post.
Okay.
I have no clue.
Gotcha.
So I did today. So I sent you my book. My book is new and I'm giving it away for free. And I also recorded my recruiting process, which I realized, like, if people follow my recruiting process, they'll stop asking the question,
Yeah.
how do I know if I'm going to find a good VA?
Right.
Right. I know I'm going to find a good VA. I'm dang good at it. I
Yeah.
never ask that of myself. Oh, I have to recruit someone. Oh, I'm going to find someone great. I know that. Right. And that's why I recorded my recruiting process so I can give it to people so they can follow it. And those two things, I just want to get it in front of people. I want people to see it so that they stop questioning themselves and they start knowing, like, oh, I could hire a virtual assistant and I can do a dang good job of it and they can do amazing stuff for me, right? And so because of that, I committed to making posts on Facebook because I feel, or Facebook and Instagram, because I feel like in order for people to trust, like, oh yeah, maybe I'll try this book or maybe I'll try this, they have to see me, right? So that's the personal branding thing that I haven't done for a long, long time. But I'm not willing to put those apps on my phone.
Yeah.
So I told them I will start creating some content, but I'm going to send it to you and you're going to edit it or whatever you do and you can post it.
I think that's a great way to go about it. It's easier said than done because I'm so immersed in it. Like my brain will be like, oh, I just got to open up, Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp and I have to do this. And then there I am again, sucked into the rabbit hole. And
Sucked in.
I literally I'll make an intention. You can hear me in the back of my head. I'm like, no, just go there. Like, just go to the DM. The person's going to message you. And then I'm like, no, I should probably post this right now because I'm doing something cool. And it's just like the posting side of it, I think is good. But if you really look at how much time you're posting on the apps versus how much time you're consuming, scrolling, getting these dopamine spikes, like everything else.
And they're good at it. I mean, They are so dang good at making you do it. And you're not the only one,
right.
This
is
exactly, a universal problem.
And then my brain will also do this, which is like slightly valid. It's like, I'll watch a lot of ads. So it's like, I'm not even really super addicted to the ads, but I'm getting more addicted now because if I see a nice sales funnel, I guarantee you, like my brain has some dopamine spikes in there. So now I'll be like justifying it. I'll be like, no, I'm studying, and it'd be better if I allocated time because that'd be more controlled, like this 1 hour dedicated to this. But if it's like 30 minutes of looking at cat videos and then 30 minutes of studying marketing, that's not work. The app's controlling me. I'm not controlling the app.
Yeah. So I have my VAs do all of it.
It's time management. It comes down. And even if you have a team of awesome VAs, there's still, to grow your business, you have to do certain things, so.
Yeah, you do. But let me offer a different perspective on that. So I've worked about 17 hours a week since 2008. Since that story I told you, which was 2008, 2007. That story was 2007. And then it took me a while to get down to I was working at 0 hours a week and then 1 hour a week. And then finally I was like I got to do something to keep myself busy because I'm bored. Mm-hmm. But I've been at 17 hours a week since 2008, 2009. And the only thing I do in the business is I think. I think through processes. I think through problems. I create solutions, and then I assign it to someone else for them to do the work. And if I can't assign it to someone else to do the work, we're not going to do it. There's another opportunity somewhere else where I can assign it to someone else to do the work that will still make money. Maybe I turn down stuff all the time that's like, oh, this is going to make me $1 billion, but I have to be super, super involved. I'm not going to do it because you only get to live once and there's only so much time, and I have that time and I don't want to give it back.
Yeah. Yeah. Time is so valuable. I think a lot of people have a mental block of what they can delegate, including myself, because I think I'm pretty good at it. Like, people in the community respect me for like delegating like things that nobody else has in like the reselling space. But I still think like you're saying these things like copywriting, like I'm like, I have to do it because I know my space so much, you know?
Okay, so copywriting. It took me a long time to find a good copywriter, like sales copy, not just like web copy, whatever.
Right.
To find a good sales copywriter took me a long time, and I had to really interview and check people out. And I thought for a long time I can't hire this in the Philippines, but over the last 10 years, man, dang, things have changed. And I recently hired a really good copywriter in the Philippines who does just really dang good work.
Yeah. Yeah. There's mental blocks out there, man. And then like you said, like, how do you know a task requires you? Because you said, I don't do anything. I don't pursue like large projects that require like a lot of your energy. How do you what questions do you ask yourself to get down to it of like, okay, is this something like that actually requires me to think and be creative and absolutely nobody else could do this? Like, how do you get down to that without like a tragedy? Because you told me that tragic story, and I've heard that with other entrepreneurs too. That's like the first time they ever delegate anything is when something bad happens.
You get forced. Yeah, you get forced into it. So, man, this is hard because a driving force in my life is freedom. Is like that. That's part of what drives me. Like some people are driven by money and I am, but money just because it creates freedom for me. And I'm driven by freedom, money, and time freedom, right?
Yes.
And so whenever an opportunity comes to me, I look at it and the question I ask is, who's going to have to do this work? Is it me or is it someone else? And in the beginning, when I started asking this, it was like, oh, I think I could get someone else to do this. And today it's like, oh, I know if it's me, I'm not going to do it. Like, so what's the point of even starting this thing if it has to be me? Because I just straight up won't do it. And so projects that come into our business that my team suggests that end up being like, oh, John has to do this. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I kill them. I kill those projects because
Gotcha.
it's not going to work because I'm most effective when I'm directing things, not when I'm doing things.
Yeah. Because you're a clear thinker in terms of like what you can and can't delegate. But I feel like a lot of people, you would sit down and you would talk to them. They're like, oh, like this project, I have to do like these 8 things out of the 10 things. But really, maybe they only have to do 1 or 2 or 0.
Okay, so here's my suggestion for this. My suggestion is when you're first starting to hire someone, find something that you know that you can teach someone. And that if you have something in your business that you know you could teach someone to do, something that you do repetitively, or something you know you should be doing, but you're not doing it, but you could teach someone else to do it, hire someone to do that thing and teach it to them. And that's your first delegation experience. And it's your first experience of getting something off of your plate and giving it to someone else, right? And then the second time you do this, you don't necessarily have to hire someone else. You're just going to teach the same person, but you're going to delegate something else. You're going to teach them. It's not just, oh, hey, go do this for me. It's how do I create training to give this to someone else so that they know what to do and how to do it. Yeah. And then once you experience this a couple times of like, oh, I created training and I gave it to them and they did a crappy job. And then I created more training and then it worked out, right? And now I don't have to do this thing anymore. So once you've experienced that a couple times, you start to recognize like, oh, this thing would be really hard to teach, but I could teach this thing. Like you talked about unsubscribing from emails. I took that a step further and was like, hey, I want you to filter stuff in my inbox that I don't want to see. Like not just unsubscribing, but I'm going to go through my inbox and I'm just going to go through it right now. I'm going to record my screen. And this is,
okay.
In the end, this is how I do it, right? So I use Snagit, you use Loom. I use Snagit because it lets me also just take screenshots and not just record videos.
Oh, nice. Is that free as well? Or does
No, so Snagit is $50 one time.
Okay.
But it's the industry standard of like, this is amazing, right?
It's good for making like long-term videos that are going to be watched over and over because you can screenshot and then comment on it. What's the screenshot thing?
So you can take a screenshot of your desktop and then like draw arrows on it or annotate it or write content on it. And then you send that screenshot to them, right?
Okay.
Or you can take a video. So like you drag it out on your desktop. So like this is what I did with my email. I dragged it out on my desktop on my browser, just covering my browser. It was like, hey, I want you to start modifying my email. Here's me going through my email. This, I don't want to see this ever. Just archive this from my email. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. This one's super important. Star this one. This one, I don't like this. Like this is spam. Unsubscribe from this. Delete it. Right. And so he did it once, but he left a bunch of stuff. So then I did it again. I created another video, and then I created another video, and he just gets better and better at it.
Gotcha.
Delegation sometimes isn't just a one-time Michael Gerber E-Myth standard operating procedure. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the great things about the Philippines is it's long-term because they're loyal and they're going to work long-term. So sometimes I'm like, this is going to take me weeks or months to teach them how to do this really well. But it's something that this is saving me time. Like I'm buying time.
And I think to go back to Michael Gerber, I think after they've spent months doing this, like let's say handling customer service, handling emails, which maybe you could give me some tips with this, but this is the approach we took. I CC my VA whenever I reply to an email that could be added to an FAQ. So if it's generic enough, or maybe we've got it, if we get the question twice, we're adding it to the FAQ. So now we have a list in Google Doc of like all these different questions. And if my VA gets hit by a bus, now I can hire a new one and all the questions have already been answered. When it comes to customer service, and actually I'll share my screen real quick and show you another manual I have. How do I do this? Give me 1 second. This is actually a manual for hiring a virtual assistant off of Onlinejobs.ph for repricing. No, this is for a manual for hiring someone off Onlinejobs.ph for repricing. So as you can see, it's Michael Gerber style. It's got step 1, log into Online Jobs. Step 2, click on the post a job in the top right, blah, blah, blah. And I made the first half of this. And I was like, screw this. Like, why am I making this? I can have a VA do it for me. So then I had him go do the rest of it. And whenever something might be left out, I'm like, add it to this manual. And then we always update the date at the top. But as you can see, like I have my own techniques. Like I think I got this from Matt Loberstein, but get the colors of the rainbow from in order for your job application. Like have that be part of it. I really like what you said about ask 4 questions. If they only answer 3, they're probably only going to do 75% of the work. But would you have any tips? Because I don't know if you make manuals like that, but for something like customer service, because I know that's one of the things that like it's why customer service agencies exist. Would you have tips for something like that, at jobs like that, how to really document them?
So one of the things that we have people do is we have them go through the last 7 days of customer support and just read the emails, because you'll get an instant education. You'll see the same questions over and over again. And then we have this document that our VAs, they all, just like you do, when we get the same question over and over again, add the answer to this thing so that they can just copy and paste the answer. And everybody doing customer support gets this document. So customer support's not like rocket science. And then usually like when I onboard someone, and I don't do customer support, my business partner manages our customer support team. When I onboard someone, I'm always going to create a video for them. Like, hey, welcome. Here's the things that you're going to be doing during my screen, showing my screen using Snagit.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, we have this huge FAQ document, and I've had one virtual assistant really like beefed it up, and I'm just like, okay, if we hire another VA, it's not going to be one of those jobs where you hand it over and they have it instantly. But it takes a slow process. And I think I learned this from Dan Kennedy is like with jobs like that, you need to have always have an option number 2 at some point. So like hire maybe even like it'd be worth it for me to hire have my American lister learn how to do this, or just have another VA learn how to do it. Maybe I have a VA that does something else for me, but just train them. I'm like, all right, you're not going to do this now, but just in case, we don't have to wait 2 months to train someone else. I don't have to be super involved with it, because if my VA got hit by a bus and I hired someone new, it would be about a 2-month process to have them fully onboarded.
I try and teach people multiple things in the business rather than just compartmentalizing, because I think, and I've seen, the more you understand our business, the better you are at that one job. So like, if you're not just doing customer support, you're also doing admin stuff, you're also involved in social media, you get it. Like, you get the process.
That's actually what happened with my VA. He got everything else. He was doing like the spreadsheets. He was crunching numbers for people. He was doing all that. His English wasn't the best, so I always kept him away from customer support. But he would know more than the customer support lady who worked in America. So I was like, dude, it just makes sense. Like, you're going to start doing this as well. And it's awesome because customer support, it doesn't take all day for my business. It's small enough to where we get like, a dozen questions or something, or a dozen emails. It's not going to take a whole day, but now he can go about, do all of his other tasks, and then come back and answer those questions. But it was reverse. He started doing everything else in my business first, understood the business. Then now he can come back, and if someone asks him a question about that requires like knowledge of the back end, he can actually give an educated answer and add it to the FAQ.
I love it. That's great. I love it. Yeah. So.
All right. I really appreciate you coming on, man. You got anything else to say to people about where to reach you at? You're going to do the personal brand thing on any social media?
So the thing to say to people really is like, this doesn't work for everybody, but to figure out if it works for you, you got to try it. Like, it's a leap. It takes a leap to go hire someone, right? Because it is a full-time thing or a part-time thing, but it's a commitment. And I really recommend not hiring hourly, because it'll force you to commit also. And that commitment on your part is committing to be the CEO and not be the grunt worker anymore. So that's one thing. The second thing, and I mentioned this earlier, but my book, I'm giving it away for free. I bought a whole bunch of copies. It's at outsourcinglever.com. It'll explain.
We'll put a link below.
Yeah. And then I have my recruiting process where like I recorded everything that I do when I recruit, and talking through the whole process, and I make it available to you at onevaoa.com. So those are two, like,
we'll link both those below after this.
Sweet.
Awesome, man. I really, really appreciate your service, and you've done a great job of making it super easy to understand, super easy interface, and I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, man. This has been good. It's been fun.
All right, brother. I'll see you.
Talk to you later.